Welcome everybody to another episode of the Anime Lounge podcast. Got awesome news for everybody. We will be working with the Animes show starting basically now, moving into the future. So we are actually going to be brought to you by the Anime show. Great news for us as the Anime Lounge podcast and all of our viewers, because hopefully that is going to help us grow so we can continue to bring you great content and just kind of continue this and bring great things to the future. I know we are excited about this and definitely looking forward to seeing what happens between us in the future. But so everybody knows, nothing really is going to change as far as our content is concerned. We're still going to be bringing you awesome podcast episodes and our short flight episodes. So don't concern about that. It will just be that you can now find us strictly, mainly, however you want to put it, in the Anime Show Facebook group, and you can find all of our content there. Definitely have great content on that website. Definitely have great content on that page, but of course, all of our content is still going to be in addition to our normal content, so you don't have to worry about any of that. As per our tradition, we always start with an adult beverage of choice. Today, I am going to be drinking a Journeyman's Distillery. It is a Featherbone whiskey, but this one's a super limited reserve batch done by the United States' first female distiller. So it's a super, basically kind of a one-of-a-kind batch.
Interesting.
And then, of course, I've got my spotted cow.
Yep.
Lance, what about you? What are you drinking today?
Today, I will just be drinking some Dewars blended Scotch whiskey, 12 year, and I, too, will be drinking some Spotted Cow.
Awesome. Can you kind of let our listeners know what we're going to be talking about today?
All right. Today, we are going to be covering the Demon Slayer Entertainment Arc season. In this arc, we follow Tanjiro and his team into the Red Lake District, led by Sound Hashira, Tengen, Uzui. Tengen's 3 wives have gone missing during an investigation into demon activity. After Tanjiro's team gets roped into the mission of finding the wives, they are disguised as girls to investigate other brothels. We find out that one of the upper 6 is to blame for all the mess that has been going on. A crazy battle breaks out and puts all of our heroes knocking at death's door.
Yeah, super crazy. 11 episodes, so kind of technically short, but if you include Mugen Train, which we are not going to talk about Mugen Train in this, we're strictly going to be covering the Entertainment District arc, because in our first episode, way back in the day,
very first episode,
we covered the Mugen Train movie along with season 1, which kind of looking back at it, it's like, damn, that was a lot of content we covered.
That was like, what, 24 episodes plus the movie?
Yeah, that was a bunch of content. So
big episode.
And it wasn't even that long. I think we covered it in an hour.
I recently re-listened to it to make sure I can be a little bit on track. It was like a solid hour and a half.
Yep.
So we did pretty well covering.
We covered a lot of content in a short period of time.
Yeah.
For anybody who has not watched the Mugen Train arc, I did watch it. It's only 7 episodes. 6 of them are the movie. The very first episode is following along with getting my arcs mixed up, is following along with Rengoku, and you just kind of, it's a preamble to the Mugen Train is all it is. He's kind of in the area and just starts the whole thing. So it ends with him on the train is how it starts, or excuse me, how it ends, which is how the Mugen Train movie starts. So it's not really missing anything too much. I will also say that in the manga, that is not a part of it. Good information, but not a part of the manga.
The first episode of?
Yes, the first episode of the Mugen Train. And, I mean, nothing huge changed. Just kind of elongated the dreams. And that was really about it. I was like, oh, okay, that wasn't too bad.
Okay. Yeah, so like what we said, we're not really going to concern ourselves with the Mugen Train arc.
Yep.
Because we covered it already.
Yep.
So we're going to focus on the Entertainment District arc.
Yes. Before we get started, Lance, you want to give us Lance's lessons?
Today's Lance's Lessons is going to be the Japanese word for flashy, and that is hade. Hade is spelt H-A-D-E, and hade is very appropriate for this episode because our Hashira of the season is very flashy. He is very concerned about being the opposite of a shinobi in the shadows.
Which, now that I think about it, definitely reminds me of Yu Yu Hakusho.
Oh, yeah?
Because the shinobi wanted to be out into the world.
Oh, in the tournament arc?
Yep.
Dark Tournament arc, yeah, because, they wanted to be in the shadows and have their own island, and now they want to expand and take over.
Yep.
That's right.
So, kind of similar, but I only think about that as soon as you said it. I was like, oh, shit, okay. Yep. Here we go. 100% want to start this episode with favorite characters.
Oh, yeah.
You want to give me yours?
Yeah. My favorite character is going to be Nezuko.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
She's going to go hand in hand with, like, what I'm going to claim to be my favorite, like, scene/art or scene/fight
okay.
of the entire arc. That's just because she's a complete badass when she's fighting Daki.
Yes.
She just goes insane. Like, she grows. She, of course, everybody knows she grows. She gets bigger. She looks like an
adult.
Yeah. And then she just becomes super powerful. Like, her regenerative abilities are explained to be on par with the upper six. Her blood is just so crazy. How she was able to keep her limbs intact, her head attached.
Yep.
Just by coagulation of blood. That was super interesting. Kind of like a cop-out, too, at the same time. So that's always fun.
Good old anime logic.
But then when she just starts beating the fuck out of Daki, just crushing her and just stomping her ass, and I was so into that. I'm like, dude, she's going to mess her up. I thought this was... The first time I watched this, I totally thought that was going to be, like, the conclusion of Daki.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, because she's just going to town. Totally loved it. I also like that she finally showed a little bit of, like, weakness towards humans in that form. Like, after she started going crazy, after she started losing blood, and then there was a human in one of the rooms bleeding, and then she's like, oh, now I kind of want some blood. Which kind of did contradict what, Uro Kodaki, there it is.
Yep.
But what he was saying with the...
Basically, she wouldn't, like, her mindset was against wanting to eat humans or feed on humans.
Hypnosis was the word I was looking
Yeah. Okay, yep.
Yeah, so I can understand why people might think, like, well, you're not supposed to be like that. But then again, maybe that's some part of the drama. Like, this is a huge growth thing for her. And maybe her power is exceeding a little bit of that hypnosis. So I was, whatever the deal is, I'm totally on board with all of it.
I was perfectly accepting of it, only because, I mean, she wasn't herself, essentially. And so that's kind of why I accepted it for as what it was.
You got a favorite character in this arc?
Tengen.
Definitely
Tengen.
He's a badass. The funny part is when we first saw him in, like, season 1 or whatever, and he was called the Sound Hashira, I'm like, that doesn't sound cool. He's not going to be that awesome. But they did an amazing job really exploiting who he is, and he's freaking badass. I like him a lot.
Yep. And then I also love the fact that they essentially had two similar characters as far as Hashira are concerned in this season, where they're very flamboyant, you could say, where they're just very outspoken, very, like, in your face with their personality, when Rengoku and Tengen, but you see one die and you see one live. And I thought that was really good to see, where it's like you can almost expect people to die in this, and it's like, nope, you're gonna be able to live through this trial that happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm really happy he ended up surviving in the end too.
Yes.
Because, like, for quite a while, we all kind of expected him to almost die during these various battles that kept going on. But at the same time, you can't show that everybody's just going to start dying, because then you're not going to want to invest any emotions into any characters or any Hashira for that matter. Because, we got stricken with Rengoku dying right away.
Yeah.
So that was really sad.
So heartbreaking. And then, of course, he thought of Rengoku during the fight with I forget how to say his name. It's the upper six, but it's the brother.
Gyotaro.
Yeah, when he was fighting Gyutaro, he reminisced about Rengoku, kind of being like, hey, am I doing enough to help? Am I being, essentially, because it's all about like living up to that person that died that you respected. Mm-hmm. It's like, am I living up to who you were as an individual?
Yeah, and they definitely showed that a couple times, that Rengoku kind of sets the bar for like who people want to be and how to push themselves to be even better / go further.
Yep.
Because there was that one scene, was like, was it Tanjiro that says like set your heart ablaze, or was that Tengen that said that or thought that? One of the two, something along those lines.
I'm drawing a blank. I don't remember, but I know one of them does say it. Yeah,
like set your heart ablaze and then push yourself even further, like just to bring him back into the picture and remind everybody that, you know, we all can do better. So it's all good.
Yeah, so definitely Rengoku have his figure on our shelf down in the in our studio now. So glad I get to look at that. Huge figure for $50. I'm just gonna say, got it on Barnes and Noble. I was like, oh man, I got to get this.
Yeah, we're all looking at it right now. And it's not your typical small figure. It's a good sized figure, and it's
like a 9-inch figure, so it's pretty big.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Terrible content for our audio-based listeners, but it is on our Facebook and Instagram, so you can go back and check it out.
Right.
But yeah, he's definitely my favorite. Pushing through, like you were saying, you know, it's like, oh, a sound Hashira can't be that cool. And he is all in your face, flamboyant, just flashy. Yep, that was the word I was looking for. Flashy. Everything had to be flashy. I thought it was hilarious. Even the second and third time through watching it, I'm like, nope, that was great. It's entertaining every single time he says it. Just like when Rengoku was saying tasty when he's eating in the train car. I thought that was hilarious. Just kind of almost obnoxious about it, but in a funny way.
And it's not like they overdid it.
Yep.
Like where every time he said flashy, like it had this weird like command to it where it like brought too much. It brought attention to it because, you know, flashy is kind of, you know, a strange way to describe something like in everyday context. But like he said it and it flowed so perfectly that like everything just worked.
And I mean, let's be honest. So they say he's like 6 feet tall. Yeah. So he's huge compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
And so just anytime he says something with all of his like gusto and all of his personality, it's going to be more, in his sense, flashy than everybody else because he just stands out.
Yep. And the cool thing about him, he's a shinobi. Yep. And, you know, they described it like shinobi are typically guys that hide, like I said earlier, they hide in the shadows, they attack in the dark, they do everything in secret.
Yep.
And it's ironic that he's the complete opposite. So, you know, he's got painted fingernails, he's got
the jewel
headband.
Yep.
And like the two little things like bang, I don't know what they call those. They're like two little things that come down his head too.
Yep, off his hair. And then, I mean, he's got his 3 wives.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's a dual wielder, so he's even more just unique and individual because everybody else has got one sword. And then, of course, he knows exactly how to use it to the best of his abilities.
Oh, yeah. He's so good with that, too.
Yep.
Like, as soon as they pulled out, like, that nunchuck sword deal, and it's also flashy, too, because, you know, it's got, like, gold plating on it, so it's, you know, so it's shinier. And his abilities with that thing, like, when he went to go slash Gyutaro, and like he's holding the tip of his blade so that the other blade can extend further and try to cut off both Daki and Gyutaro's head off at the same time, but slightly failed.
Yep.
Like I think that was an overlooked scene because when we watched it like a year ago in Japanese, things were happening so fast you really didn't have, like, you're reading, you're watching. And then watching it again, things are still happening pretty fast. And then it took me the third time listening at work, like, oh, he was actually cutting off Daki's head again and trying to cut off his head at the same time, all in the same combo move. And like that almost worked. He's just so talented.
Yeah, it was insane. And then, of course, the physical strength he needed just to do that. And I mean, let's be honest, he is just menacing by how big and muscular he is. Because I mean, you want to compare him to any of the other Hashira, and they're all nimble. They're small. They need to be able to get through these spaces. And then you have Tengen that has like, we'll just say 20-inch arms and just massive.
Yeah, he's definitely a powerhouse.
Yo, he does not skip leg day.
Not in the least. That dude does everything. Every muscle in his body is perfect.
Yes. And so it's such a good character design for him as well. Like really enjoyed all of our characters because they're all very unique. So something that you had brought up earlier was just kind of one of those scenes that was super great. You want to get into like a favorite scene right away? Favorite moment?
Knock those out? Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of already said it. Like, my favorite fight scene, and
so
why Nezuko is my favorite, is because of that scene.
So I want to say favorite fight first, and if that includes your favorite scene, then we can...
I guess I didn't think too much about differentiating anything.
Okay.
But favorite fight scene is definitely the Nezuko versus Daki scene.
Okay.
It's just too much badassness just goes on.
Yes. I will say my favorite fight is actually the beginning fight with Tengen and Tanjiro and Gyutaro, excuse me. Because it kind of had everything you're looking for as far as a fight. It was very just kind of orchestrated. You had ups and downs. You had cool moves with Gyutaro and Tengen, and you had Tanjiro doing, like, figuring out, it's like, hey, you know, every good demon slayer uses sword skills that kind of bring out the best of them. So it's when he's using his Dance of the Fire God, including with the water breathing technique. So it's sun breathing and water breathing so that he can push through his limitations of his sun breathing abilities. So I thought that the beginning section of the first fight. So before Tanjiro goes and fights Daki the second time with with the other two, with Zenitsu and Inosuke. Mm-hmm. I want to say that's episode 6 or 7, one of those two.
Maybe. I don't have my notes in front of me, unfortunately.
Oh, Lance, you suck.
That's all right, though. I do feel... I've got a good sense of the entire arc.
Yes.
So it's all good.
Yep. Yeah, I'd definitely say that's my favorite.
It's kind of hard to choose because, like, most of this arc basically was that fight, and they managed to... maybe about half. The entire second half was definitely pure fighting.
Yes.
And they did such an amazing job making that last that long without making you bored of anything.
Yeah, because it was like 5 episodes was the fight, but they staged it, which was nice, because then, you know, you had my favorite fight, and then you had the Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu section of the fight, and then you had the Tanjiro and Tengen minus his hand section of the fight, and you also had Inosuke and / Zenitsu section of the fight,
right, where they were just trying to take over Daki.
Yep. So you had these stages that kind of help break up the fight. So yes, it's 5 episodes, but it's like, this is an episode, this is half an episode, here's another 2/3 of an episode. So it's not as ridiculous Dragon Ball Z-esque going on.
Right. And now that we're bringing up all these fights,
and then
I'm kind of thinking of one of my favorite scenes already now.
So, but then you also had the Nezuko and Daki fight.
Oh, yeah.
And you had Tanjiro and Daki fight. So it's like, yeah, you had a lot of episodes, but you had a shit ton of fighting going on. Like, you had different...
Because everybody got an opportunity to fight, like, almost everybody.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Yeah, so that was really nice.
Yep.
But to loop back into one of my favorite scenes, it's kind of one of my best, like, LOL moments.
Okay.
And that's when Daki's head comes off, because when Inosuke saws Daki's head off and then grabs it and then runs, I laughed so goddamn hard at that. Like, that's hilarious, and it's genius at the same time. Like,
yep.
I thought that scene was so perfect. And then the fact that scene only lasts for, like, 10 seconds.
Yep.
Just shows how crazy things are going on. Like, you go from brilliance to getting fucked up so quickly. Like, just turn of events so quickly.
Yeah. And then I did find it funny when Zenitsu wakes up. Like, the whole Zenitsu thing was hilarious, because Inosuke's like, you do better. You should just sleep all the time. You do better when you're asleep.
Yeah, right.
And then makes point in the beginning where it's like, you're a completely different person when you sleep. So makes note of that. And then his whole mannerisms change, his voice changed.
He's got like these super intelligent / killer instincts. Like, he knows exactly what to do in every moment.
Yep.
I mean, he's got speed on his side, so that helps a lot. But like, yeah, he becomes a completely different person. And I think in lots of other anime, I might dislike the sudden character description flip.
Yep.
But like Zenitsu pulls it off.
Well, it almost polar opposites for one.
Oh, exactly.
And it's not the first time we've seen this, so that helps.
Definitely. Yeah, because we've seen it in season 1 where we start to see how much of a badass he can become when he's sleeping.
Yep.
And then we got to see him really flush it out in the Mugen Train.
Yep.
And then here he just goes even further.
Yeah, so I think just great development as far as he is concerned is bringing out his other half, you could call it, his sleeping half. So I thought that was great. Honestly, I'd say my favorite part is the Daki and Gitaru scene when they're dying.
Oh, so when the final episode?
Yeah.
Or, well, I guess they die in the second final.
So I'm talking their last episode when they're doing the flashback. Because, again, it's that whole making you feel for these evil individuals. And it's like, man, just gotta pull on that heartstring.
Exactly. Yeah, because just like we were talking about Rui in season 1, like we are rooting for our heroes to just get rid of these bad guys.
Yep.
And then as soon as our mission is complete, they gotta make us like feel pity for the bad guys. And it's like, oh man, I kind of like them. Like they had a pretty badass upbringing, like not in a good way, but like
a super terrible upbringing.
Super interesting.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, because Gyutaro, his upbringing, being a gross, ugly guy, but he was a badass with that scythe as a kid. Like, damn, that was an amazing scene. But in that, okay, just to bring our viewers back into scope, like the backstory that we're getting is, Daki's this 13-year-old girl. Let's keep that in mind too.
Yep. Also, during the what period is that? It's the samurai period.
Oh, they did make mention of it, but I don't remember. Quick Google search.
So it's the Edo period, which is funny because that's when the shinobu are supposedly wiped away. Was during that period.
Pretty much, yeah.
But keep going.
Oh yeah, so bring everybody's memories back into place. This is when Daki is kind of she's essentially getting paid for her services.
She's a prostitute, yes.
By this samurai, and she doesn't take his shit and stabs him in the eye. Yep. And then samurai gets all pissy and like, you don't fuck with me, and sets her on fire. And Gyutaro gets all mad, and he's carrying his burnt sister away, and then samurai comes from behind, slashes him in the back. We all think he goes down, and then the bitch of Oryu houses, whatever, like the leader of
the headmistress, you could call her.
Yeah,
not the headmistress, but the head of the house.
Yeah, the head of this house that they're supposedly working for is total bitch. He's like, yeah, these guys, or this man Gyutaro has been a huge problem.
Yep.
So if it cost me one pretty girl to get rid of the biggest problem I have, then I'll just find another pretty girl, whatever.
Yep.
And then Gyutaro comes out of nowhere, jumps over the samurai, slashes the woman down the face. I'm like, damn, that was super badass.
Fucking murks her out.
I thought that. I'm like, good for you, dude. Like, now I feel I'm rooting for you at this point. And then he just fucks up the samurai right after. I'm like,
yep.
Okay, man, I totally get you.
Yep. It brings reason to why they became demons. And yeah, I really like that because it'd be super easy to just be like, oh, yep, terrible people, dead. And then Tanjiro, he could be upset because it's like, well, I don't actually want to kill anybody. And you could have just called that a day. And people would have been like, yep, okay, I get that. Even though they're evil, he doesn't really want to kill people, so yeah, I get why he's upset. No, we gotta make people feel bad about hating these terrible demons that are what they've killed. What I think 20 Hashira
collectively, yeah. I think it was like 14 and 7.
So yeah, 21 Hashira between the two of them, which is insane. That's a huge number of
right. Because when they said that Gyutaro killed like 14 Hashira, I'm like, you guys have been alive for a damn long time.
Yep.
Because you make us think that like you guys have been fucking shit up for like 20, 30, 40 years. But no, this makes it sound like they've been pushing like 50,
60 years. So
easily.
One reference that they make is the head of the house that Daki is in. She's talking about how when she was a girl, she got brought up about this Oran that would do this specific mannerism.
Yep, the head tilt and the nose up, which what Daki was doing like in the mid-season when she was looking down on the...
Well, it's like head tilt forward, but then have her nose up and at an angle or something like that. Like it was very very specific about, well, Daki.
Yep.
And then she's like, well, how old are you? You must be, does she call her a demon or does she just say?
I think she did straight up just call her a demon. Like she is already like,
yeah,
I'm going to call you out. And,
yeah, she's dumb. Terrible decision. It's like, if somebody's been alive this long, probably for a reason, don't fuck with her. Like, come on.
At least without backup.
Yeah, bring a samurai or something.
As weak as he might be, at least bring some kind of arsenal of weaponry of some sort, whatever. Or she could have at least called the Hashiras to come help or something. Like,
yep. Well, they don't. So that's the thing. You have to remember the Demon Slayer Corps is kind of like the shinobi where they're in shadow. Nobody really knows who they are.
That's a good point because the general public really doesn't know that like demons are among them.
Like that's why they have to hide their swords
and stuff.
Yep.
Forgot about that.
So yeah, it would have had to have been a samurai, which aren't even a thing. Well, they might be a thing in like certain,
like in today's standards and Tanjiro's day standard.
I would say more like a for show, not actually a samurai kind of thing. But I doubt they even had samurai back in the day because you can't walk around with swords.
Oh yeah, because in Mugen Train they were getting yelled at and they were about to get captured strictly because they had swords, on their side. So
yep. Apparently she just fucked. No backup.
Yep. Maybe because she felt all high and mighty running this
brothel.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, let's just call it what it is. It's a brothel.
Yeah. There's worse names. We'll be nice and we'll call it a brothel. Right. And
so she's got money. She's got a little bit of power because she's running this business. So maybe she felt a little confident calling
her out,
Daki out for being a fraud.
Sort of. Yeah. It was really interesting. I thought it was super fucked up.
Sticking on Daki real quick.
Yep.
Her belt demon.
Yep.
Never got fully flushed out on like exactly what it is.
So it's an extension of her, and it's the best way I could do it, or I could think of it as it's a piece of her that she uses to store the humans that she wants to eat for later. Mm-hmm. And then what happens is when she reabsorbs the belt, she gets her full strength.
Right.
So kind of, I'm trying to think of a good reference point. I want to think. In Dragon Ball Z, when Yamcha separates himself, he loses part of his power, right? Like, I think they make mention of that in the Cell arc.
Yamcha?
Not Yamcha. Tien. Excuse me. Oh. When Tien separates himself, he basically splits his power into sections, right?
Right, like each copy
gets a bit of his power.
Right.
And I think it's similar, but instead of being, a copy of himself, it's just a
division of power.
Yeah.
Sure. Like, I'm not going to bore with that. The only thing that threw me off was, it was like two separate beings. And I guess the biggest reason I want to bring this up is because the belt demon aspect of it gave like super Disney vibes. Just in its design, its mouth, its eyes, the way it talked, like it made me feel like I can see this in a Disney movie.
Yeah, now that you bring it up, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I can see that as well. I would agree. Definitely kind of Disney-esque. I will say it is in the manga just as it's drawn in the anime, or vice versa, however you want to think about it. So might have gotten some inspiration from some Disney movies. I don't know.
Maybe. But this belt is a complete badass, too.
Yeah, just like storing all these humans so that Daki can eat them later.
Yeah, that's such a unique concept because basically it's Daki's fridge.
Yeah, you could put it that way. It's also a good way for Daki to be able to kind of travel in between all the other brothels without having to completely sacrifice herself.
Or expose herself.
Yeah. So it makes it easy for her to, do her... Is she considered an Orion?
Oiran? Yeah, she was an Oiran of... I don't remember the house's name, but there was one house that she was, wherever the blonde wife...
Yeah, I didn't write down the wives' names.
I got the character list. Makio. Wherever Makio's house was, that's where she... Oh, you know what? It's so crazy because now you have to remember that she jumps back and forth because Makio was in the house that Inosuke was investigating.
Yep.
But at the same time, when Daki was the Oiran, she bitch slapped Zenitsu at his house because we have to remember she can travel between houses in a way.
So I think she was at Zenitsu's house as the Oran.
Yeah, I think that's how that worked.
But then she captured
Makio
in captured Maki in Inosuke's house, or the one he was in, and then I guess there wasn't anybody worth. Trying to think. No, because in Tanjiro's house, she took the Oran in.
Oh yeah, just before that Oran officially left. Because Tanjiro was saying goodbye to that Oran, and he's like, oh yeah, tomorrow I'm getting a husband and I'm leaving, and I'm sad that I'm leaving all these girls behind because I know things are dangerous. And then as soon as Tanjiro leaves, Daki absorbs that Oran.
Do you think Daki planted it?
Oh, the husband? Yep. This was all fake?
Yes.
So that the public would think that she's being taken?
Yeah, so she has a good excuse to disappear.
Okay. At first, I did not think that. I'm like, if she's getting taken by her husband tomorrow, maybe some public guys are going to be like, okay, well, he never came.
Yeah.
But now if she just suddenly disappears, everybody's going to just believe that she just went off with this guy.
Yep.
So... I like your idea that she's the one that made it all happen, fakely.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that. That makes things more smooth.
Well, Daki could essentially pay because, she makes mention she doesn't need money for food or anything else.
Right.
So she could pay for, not even going to bother looking up what the woman the Oran that got paid for, what her name was.
Yeah, I don't know.
And she could pay for her, and then she just disappears. Nobody would think about it. It's like, oh, well, she must have just went, and nobody, in the middle of the night or something.
Right. Yeah, so it's a clean getaway.
Yep.
Could have been.
And that might be what she's been doing for years. Who knows?
Oh, this character list says Koinatsu. I think that might have been the really nice one that's going to get paid off.
Yeah, sure, we'll go with that. Yeah, that's what her name is. And yeah, so I wonder if that's what Daki had been doing for years.
That would explain why she's been able to be there for so long with people disappearing left and right.
Yep.
Just making everybody believe that all these women are just going off doing their own thing, and in reality, she's eating them.
Yep. And Tanjiro makes mention of it. It's like, well, that's a super convenient excuse where they just run away. I don't remember what the actual term is.
I wrote it down in my notes, but
but of course,
there's a term.
Yes, there is a term. I suck, and I did not write it down in my notes. So here we are.
The term was someone who either runs away to avoid their payment for their services,
or no longer wants to be a prostitute. Crazy enough,
or just straight up kills himself.
Yeah, or kills himself. So
any way to get out of.
They leave for whatever reason, or they're no longer in their position for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. So it's a great concept. And then, of course, a demon being in this area also makes complete sense.
Mm-hmm. There's a place that just lives at nighttime.
Yep.
So she can just be normal.
Yep. This kind of sounds like a good place to take a break. So we'll be back after our break.
Need a little more spandex in your life? Tune into RangerCast, the first podcast devoted to Power Rangers and other Japanese superheroes. After 10 years adrift in a space dumpster, we are back with news, reviews, and special guests. Teleport to rangercast.net or summon us from your favorite podcast app. RangerCast is the most more phenomenal podcast on the web.
And now that we're back from our break, one person I really want to focus on, because we've already focused enough on Tengen, is Tanjiro, just because there's so much that happened with him in this season, or arc.
Yeah, so much. I mean, we see him, well, I guess in the beginning, he's training, he's getting better.
Yep.
But when he's put in the middle of all these battles, he's getting pushed to the edge of his life, he's getting pushed to the edge of his limits at so many moments.
Yep.
When we see him get And the very first time he realizes that, like when he first meets Daki and he gets bitch slapped into a building, and then he has this moment with himself of like, oh, I'm numb because obviously my body hit this wall. Like I can get over this.
Yep.
And then when he starts fighting Daki and his sword starts chipping away, and Daki gives him shit like, your sword maker is shitty at his job because your sword is already falling apart. And he has like, my sword maker is amazing. My sword's only falling apart because I can't do my part. Like, I'm not good enough.
Because I suck.
Right. And after that is when everything just starts going step by step up. And the Hinokami Kagura keeps coming out left and right.
Yep. And just the blood coming out of his eyes, like his eye, essentially his blood vessels explode in his eyes because he's pushing his limits so hard.
And at the same time, I'm pretty sure he's like not breathing.
No, he's 100% not breathing.
Yeah, because there's that one moment where he's fighting Daki on the roof.
Yep.
And to bring this scene into scope, like Tanjiro puts all of Daki's belts into a stack. He stabs it, and there's this awesome ass scene where he's slashing away. And
yeah, he's like, I'm going to move faster than you can react to my movement, essentially.
Mm-hmm. And just before Tanjiro's blade makes contact with Daki's throat, his brother's memory or some sort, like he has this vision where his brother tells him, dude, breathe.
Yep.
And then he remembers that he has to breathe. And
it's like, oh shit, yeah, that's right.
Stops him short from cutting off Daki's head, starts hyperventilating and needs to catch himself, and then gets, destroyed.
Yep. It was super crazy. I liked it because it's like, you can push yourself, but you're not going to get this infinite amount of ability to push yourself.
Mm-hmm. Which makes me wonder, like, if he were to push him, there's multiple times where he was pushing himself so hard, and just before anything was able to conclude, he fell short of it just because he's been pushing himself so hard.
Yep. I think what'll have to happen is that he has to keep either fighting or keep pushing himself. Yeah, it's just kind of like working out where you'll never get stronger. You'll never be able to increase your endurance without pushing past your limits and continuing on. I watched some videos and it's like, instead of always adding weight every time, go, say you're doing 5 sets of 5. If the first set you can do 5, do 5. If the next set you can only do 4, we'll do that same set at 4 and do it 4, 4, and just kind of keep continuing like that until you can go, because if you lower your weight and now you're doing 6, well, then it's too light. Mm-hmm. So same concept where it's push yourself as hard as you can for as long as you can, because that's how you're going to grow, not sort of kind of pushing yourself as far as you can just because you want to be able to
maintain.
Yeah,
because that's maintaining. That's not growing. Yeah,
it's like, well, I know I can do this certain breathing for 30 seconds or especially in this case where it's like, Zenitsu talks about how he can do his Godspeed attack twice. So it's like, well, he needs to be pushing himself and trying doing it a third time. So he needs to consistently do it twice and attempting to do it a third time, or he's just never going to stop. It's like, well, same concept where Tanjiro needs to keep pushing himself through his sun god breathing. I don't remember. What's the actual, do you remember what it's actually called? The dance of the sun god? Is that what it is?
Well, Rengoku's dad was calling it sun breathing.
Yep.
But you're talking about Tanjiro's dad in the first season when he was doing the breathing in the winter and he was doing that dance.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm running a little bit of a blank on that at the moment.
Yeah, I don't remember. It's Shino... No,
it's Hinokami Kagura is the flame. Maybe that's what it is. That's just the sun dance.
Yep.
Okay. One thing I want to add on to that is we see Tanjiro pushing himself because back when he's at the estate and he's got his body temperature of 100 and he's pushing himself day by day.
Yep.
And those 3 little girls are like, no, you need to lay in bed and recover and rest because your body temperature is too high.
Yep.
He's like, yeah, but I'm doing my best when my body temperature is high.
Yep.
And we see that in the fight. He's like, oh, I need to increase my body temperature.
Yep.
And I guess maybe holding your breath is one way to do that because it like condenses it. Like everything is being contained within your body, maybe, because you're not breathing and cooling down your body. So, yeah, maybe that's just one perk to that. But
Tanjiro logic, we'll call it.
Yeah. So, yeah, we see him pushing himself to his limits just by kind of making himself sick.
Yep. In a sense, yeah, making himself sick. I don't know if he's, got the flu or something. It's just his heart rate, his internal body temperature is just high to be able to use this ability. And I wonder if that's why Tanjiro's father was sick, was because his body temperature was so high all the time.
I like that idea. That would make a little bit more sense because, he fell to some kind of illness that we don't officially know.
Yeah, incurable disease, I think, is all they make mention of.
Yeah, that would make more sense. He just, kept pushing himself and stayed in a constant high body temperature.
Yep.
I like that idea.
Yeah, that'd be... I'll tell you right now, we don't find out how he dies.
Oh, no.
Well, let me rephrase that. We don't find out what he has when he dies. We just know that he's dead, and that's really all they make mention of it, as far as that's concerned. So, spoiler alert, I guess we'll say.
Sure.
It's not really a spoil, not bringing anything away from the series, and it would be cool to see, if the reason behind his death, if that was why, or he just got sick. Also possible.
But I like your idea. I think that adds more fun.
Yes.
More flashiness to this.
Yes, all the flashiness.
But to stay on Tanjiro, we get to see more. We get to learn more about the scar.
Yep.
About how the sun users typically have this kind of scar, like his dad had.
Yep.
But we learned that Tanjiro accidentally got this scar.
Yeah, he got splashed by hot water, whether it be from tea or whatever it was. You can stew water. I don't know. Hot water got on his face. Typical Tanjiro, though, saving his family. I think it was his little brother.
Yeah. I think some hot water was falling on him and he pushed him out of the way or something.
Yep.
Something quick. Got a little scar out of it.
Yep. And then his scar grew. Weird. Because of his fight with, was it the arm demon? The one that had the arm wrapped around his neck and stuff like that? He says he gets it in...
One of the fights. The one that's coming to my mind is when he was fighting the drum demon. The one that would...
He says he gets it in while going through the Demon Slayer testing.
The final
exam.
Exam, yeah. Something
which would be his only exam, but right. The hand demon is what they have it as.
Yeah, the one that killed all of the other Fox Mask guys.
Yep.
Yeah, that one's ringing some more bells.
Yes. From that fight is where he gets his scar elongated, enlarges, whatever you want to call it. As it appears today, but then of course, we see it metamorph into this Super Saiyan-esque transformation where his hair stands up and his scar gets bigger, and I thought that was really, really cool to see.
Yep. Because
he's pushing past his limits and kind of living up to his destiny kind of thing.
Yeah, because it's somewhere within his bloodlines. And maybe if he didn't have this scar that he got as a child... Yep. Maybe these limits that he's pushing would have given him the scar right here.
Yep.
So I can see that one being its origin story, what should have been this scar's origin story. The origin story would have probably been back with the demon in the final selection. But
yes.
Yeah.
One thing I will say is I guess I didn't really pay attention to when we saw him at the end, if his scar looked the same or if it reverted.
Ooh, good idea. I don't remember at all at this moment either.
I think it reverted.
I would like to say so.
But that would be very interesting to see if it comes and goes as he taps into his power. But that does remind me of when Tanjiro has his fight with Daki in the beginning, and she's having these flashbacks because of Muzan and his memories when the original Sun user or whoever that character was in the past is essentially having the same conversation with Muzan that Tanjiro is having with Daki.
Yeah, I thought that was an awesome parallel.
Yep. Where would you think of that as a reincarnation, or would you just think that there's certain aspects that'll repeat themselves within the lineage of an individual?
I like your latter version a little bit.
Okay.
But ultimately, I just think it was deja vu.
Okay.
Because we know that all these upper and lower rank demons have some of Muzan's blood, and by anime logic, that allows them to stay connected and just be part of Muzan, and then that triggered some sort of deja vu memory.
And so you think that Tanjiro and whoever this individual was have similar personalities? Is that what you're thinking?
Oh, yeah.
To bring these deja vu moments into reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. That's what I thought immediately.
Yep.
And whether that character is Tanjiro's dad, his granddad, or maybe even another line up.
Great. Whatever.
However long ago that moment was.
Do they make mention of how long demons have been around? Is it?
I'm sure it's been.
I think 1,000. No, because they make mention of how old Tamayo is. Because they make a funny moment about it, but I think it's like a couple hundred years.
I think Tamio was like 200 years old.
Yeah, I think
or
so.
Tamio was the one she turned into a demon was 200. So she might be a little older than 200.
Yep.
So something along those lines.
So it's probably been a few hundred years that demons have been around. So however many greats that would be as far as 200 years would be. Mm-hmm. Speaking of, kind of cliffhanger moment in the end of the season when you find out about lineage. So did you pick up on that point where Muzan and the master, also known as Oyokata?
And he's that blind guy.
He's the blind guy. He's the
sort of poison thing going through him.
I think it's like a blood disease. And they are related.
Him and Muzan?
Him and Muzan are related. Because the statement is Oyokota, which is the blind guy, says, "You are the single blemish within our entire family." So if you're not paying attention, because it's a one-liner, essentially, if you're not paying attention to that one thing he truly says, you're just gonna be like, oh, okay, you're like you're gonna hear blemish and be like, oh, just a blemish on the world kind of thing.
Right.
Versus a blemish in that family, that lineage.
Okay. I guess that does sound really familiar because maybe the way I took it at first was we got to learn that was a family in itself at that final scene. Like that woman that was caring for him was basically his wife. And those twins.
Yep. Those twins are their kids. Yep.
Are in fact their children. And I guess I thought that the blemish meant like because of Muzan, he's going to die, and now that's going to be a hindrance on that family.
Yep, that would make sense, but nope, they are related. Now, we don't know how they're related, but they are genetically related in some manner. So it'd be interesting to find out how.
Right, yeah, because that opens up a lot more questions.
Yeah.
That makes things way more interesting.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
So I remembered that, and I'm just like, oh shit, that's right. Just because I had subtitles on. And I read it, and I'm like, oh, yeah, fuck, they are related. So
that's cool.
It's definitely something I 100% want to find out more information on. So little what the fuck at the end of the season, that's for sure. Yeah, Lance, anything else you kind of want to talk about?
I would be a little remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about Inosuke.
Yep.
Because he would be my second favorite character of this entire arc.
Okay.
And that's strictly because he's just so damn funny.
I mean, if we're going to bring up second favorite characters, I'm going to say Zenitsu.
Oh, yeah?
It's so fun. He's so comedic to this entire season.
Oh, even in the beginning, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he was definitely funny.
Because he's like angrily playing whatever that instrument is.
Oh, yeah.
Because he took offense to being called an ugly woman, which is funny in itself. But just he got called ugly, so then of course he's going to be angry that the fact that he got sold off for super cheap by Tengen, and so he learns how to play this guitar-esque thing on the first try. One thing I will say is it's really cool how they played into his hearing.
Oh, yep. How he was able to hear a song and then immediately be able to play
Yep.
all of that from just memory.
Yep.
He understands the noise.
Yep. But let's talk about Inosuke. He's hilarious. He's also hilarious in this season.
Inosuke is just so damn funny.
And also, this is the first time we get to see his face. We have to remember that. This season is the first time we see him under his boar's mask.
No, we see it in season 1.
Do we?
Yeah, because we're like, dude, he's beautiful under that face, and it looks it's really strange because we usually see him as just the boar.
Yes.
But yeah,
yes.
there was quite a few times that he's had it off.
Okay, so I'm just misremembering things, which is not unusual, especially if you ask my wife.
Okay, we'll talk about his face. One comedic value right there is as soon as he gets sold off to that house, the owner of the house takes off the makeup and is like, wow, I got him on a deal. Like, he's even more beautiful without makeup, or she's even more beautiful without makeup. And
yep.
So I thought that was really funny. I mean, as far as writing goes and trying to like confuse us watchers, being like, okay, so why does this big brute of a dude look pretty?
Yep.
And then to put that prettiness into the next season and be like, okay, well, now that prettiness is being of great use, and except pretty face, super deep manly voice, so he had to be quiet the entire time.
Tengen says he can't talk at all.
Yeah, and even if you tried acting like a girl, you'd be even more creepier. So that was pretty funny.
That was funny. And then I found it good that, they bring up he doesn't wear a top because it interferes with his abilities. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really good because it makes sense. I can't say it makes sense because it's like, I have no idea how that makes sense, but it
strangely makes sense.
Yeah, it gives added reason to it.
Right.
Like, instead of just being like, I wanted some dude with an 8-pack, and that's why he doesn't wear a shirt. So it gives a reason behind it.
Right. So yeah, he's wearing that kimono in the house, and he can't like feel where the demon is within the house because he feels constricted. And so I thought that was a good point of information to throw out there.
Yeah. Then he punches the customer in the face.
I thought that was so funny.
Yeah, definitely a very funny moment.
Mm-hmm. Him doing that scorpion pose, trying to locate the demon in the house and scaring the leader.
Yep.
That was funny.
Yep. He was a very good character for this whole arc.
Mm-hmm. Every moment, there was no low point of Inosuke. It was either super one of my favorite comical moments is when he's on the roof with Tanjiro and he's like trying to explain that the demon's in his house and he's doing all these stupid hand motions. Like, I don't know how I can be more clear. I am being super obvious right now. And Tanjiro's like, yo, yeah, I believe you, even though you make no sense right now. I thought that part was one of my favorite parts.
Yep. And his muscular mice. Like, the first time I saw his mice, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, dude. I busted out laughing when we first saw that. Like, I know we were watching this like a year ago on the side when it was first being released, and we were doing podcasts on the side, and we made mention like, oh yeah, we're just trying to stay up to date with season 2 of Demon Slayer, and I didn't want to spoil the mice at that moment, but like those mice at first sight were so goddamn funny.
Yeah, muscular mice. I was like, what? Why? Why do they have to be muscular?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, why not? Let's just make it as insane as possible.
Yes. I mean, they were useful. They carried his swords around, I guess, because, there's, for a mouse, they're heavy.
Yeah.
You could say.
Muscle. Yeah, definitely love them.
Yeah, those mice were hilarious. He was really good, very entertaining. And then, of course, at the end where he tells Gitaro that, poison doesn't affect him because he's from the mountains. And it's like, what? Why would the mountains have anything to do with being immune to poison?
Right. Just because you have survival instincts. I did like that both Tengen and Inosuke eventually fell victim to the poisons. Like, they're trying to act like such badasses. Like, yeah, poison doesn't affect me. And then eventually they drop. Pushing
past your limits.
Mm-hmm. So I thought that was fun.
Yeah, it was really good. And then, of course, anime logic where I like how... So, fourth wall moment where, you have Nezuko being able to use her blood demon abilities to burn up demon poison, and Tanjiro is like, well, I have no idea why it works, but it does.
Just go with it, man.
It's just kind of fourth wall-esque where it's like, yep, that's a thing. Mm-hmm. Just anime logic is all we can call it.
Yeah, which begs the question, what if Nezuko can help that blind dude back at the estate?
I'm going to go with no, because it's not a demon issue. It's a genetic thing.
Okay. I guess
Like-
that might be a good explanation.
You can see that he's dying because he's coughing up blood. And so it's got to be a genetic disorder, or it could be a curse that was brought upon the family when Muzan was born,
Right.
which would also make sense.
That could be it too. Yeah, so just something that's out of Nezuko's hands,
Yep.
ultimately, which is totally fine.
Yep. Honestly, all the main characters in this were great because they all had arcs in this arc where they had their highs and their lows. They had great character development. This whole series is very well done. I can't say it beat me out for anime of the year, but this season was just amazing in general.
In general, yeah. Everything was insanely beautiful. Everything was so well animated. It was definitely taking movie quality and making it just commonplace and keeping that as a standard.
Yeah, especially for this season, it kind of feels, I can't say definitively that this was like the highest animation quality of the season, of the year, because I haven't watched every anime this year.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's definitely like A tier movie, like you said, movie quality animation going on. And it was just so well done.
Well, real quick, this kind of brings me into my quick little hot take on this entire season.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So, watching this the first time, everything was so new and amazing. Didn't really nitpick anything. But watching it again, I started to notice a couple things.
Okay.
Most of this series is kind of like snapshots, like single screen things with very little movement going on. Like, beauty explodes everywhere.
Yep.
But like, there's lots of moments where there's a freeze frame, and then there's like 5 seconds of talking, and then maybe the only thing that's moving is like Daki's belt going across someone's throat, like near missing someone or something like that.
Okay.
So my hot take is this anime is beautiful.
Yep.
But it's making freeze frames more elaborate than what we're used to. And I think they skate by doing a lot of those.
Okay.
And just making it unnoticed.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I can see that where it's like, hey, we're going to freeze frame. We're going to like zoom out. We're going to see this beautiful artwork, and then we're going to kind of continue on with what's going on. And I can see that. That kind of plays into something I was going to mention in Manga Mentions, where a lot of the fighting that happens is, in essence, elongated compared to the manga. Okay. Where it's, you get more fight scenes compared to in the manga where they are significantly shorter, which I'm not complaining about because, everybody who loves a shonen fight scene will love what's going on in the anime. But if you only want story, like, you don't care about the fights.
Right.
So it's one of those to each his own, where if you love a fight scene, you're going to love this series.
Right.
If you just want to skip through, like where you don't want the fight to be the main focus and you want the storyline to be the main focus, you're going to be slightly turned off. And I think the I think the manga does a better job of going more towards the story compared to the fight.
Right. Because it's just going to be an insane expectation for a manga to have like 20 pages of just random ass poses of fights. And then you have to just picture like, how do you get from point A to point B? And
yeah, where it's a lot of, you'll get snippets of a fight and then it continues. Versus in the anime where it's like, okay, well, this snippet, we're going to explain how you go from point A to point B and elongate it by a minute or two.
Right.
And I'm not complaining about it because I really enjoy that style of anime where it's like, all right, I want to see, especially in a fight, how did I get from point A to point B to point C? And when I'm reading the manga, I'm more happy to kind of skip it. Because it's like, say a chapter is 60 pages, but 30 of it is the fight. And it's like, well, cool. But if I'm, especially in what we're doing, where I'm trying to get through a season in 2 weeks, I don't care about the fight. I'll watch it.
Right, because we're just explaining the differences between story details.
So in our essence, I don't really care about a fight as far as minute details. I love big explosion points, but other than that, get me from point A to point B. It's really all I care about.
Right.
Because I'll enjoy the fight whether I'm watching every little detail or I don't. I'm not going to complain. That's one huge difference between the anime and the manga is just fight scenes in the manga are significantly shorter.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Yep. I want to say the whole series. Well, excuse me. I want to say that's really all I'm going to bring up prior to the manga mentions because we'll kind of find out why when we get to that point.
And before we close this off, my hot take about the frozen scenes do kind of happen to be a very good majority of the normal scenes. But when it comes to fighting, the fighting itself is actually well choreographed and well played. Everything is beautiful. Like one of the very last scenes when Tengen is fighting the brother and they're going hard, completely all out. That was one of the most beautiful scenes in just anime in general because everybody's moving. The camera is going 360 from every point of view.
Especially this year. That's probably one of the best fights of the year.
Yeah, you can't dock that at all. Just so much was going on. Both Tengen and the brother were attacking at full power. The brother had all these blood slashes going everywhere. They're blocking, they're attacking. And like I said, the camera angle going from a 360
individual to individual, kind of panning around each person.
Yeah, the pan around, what you would see if you're watching football on TV and you got those cameras on the strings or whatever. That's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Or shit, even in a Marvel-esque movie where it's you're going from the villain to the superhero and then kind of getting that whole 3D picture of what's going on in the surroundings. And yeah, it's you wouldn't think twice that this was a superhero, big budget movie kind of animation.
Right. So yeah, something like that deserves 100% praise.
Yep.
So beautiful.
Yes, it was very, very well done. I will say you and I are very much shonen fight scene kind of people.
Oh, yeah.
So in superhero-esque type people, especially you, Lance, where it's you want to watch anything and everything that's superhero related.
Right.
So it's just kind of, for any new listeners, gives a little background of what we really enjoy watching. So, anything else you want to talk about before we get into the manga mentions?
No, I think that's most of the highlights, and I'm good from there.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorite seasons of the year. I will say that.
And we can say that because this was last year's winter, and as of today, we haven't officially started this year's winter.
Yep. And by the time by the time this is released, winter of 23 will just be released. So we can say as of 2022, definitely top 3, top 5-esque seasons of the year.
Yeah.
But let's get into some manga mentions.
NANI?!
For anybody that wants to kind of read from the start of Mugen Train, so from the very beginning of season 2, you can pick that up on chapter 54. And if you want to start in the Entertainment District arc, it starts on chapter 65. So, 11 chapters for a movie.
That seems short for chapters.
For an hour and a half, it's not too bad.
Not too bad at all.
Nope. And if anybody wants to start at the beginning of what would be season 3, you would start on chapter 97. We're talking 32 chapters in this 11 episode season.
Of the entertainment?
Yep, entertainment.
So entertainment was 32 chapters long.
Yep, Entertainment District arc was 32 chapters. So not too many, I guess on the lower end of what would be a typical 12 episode season, but not all that many less comparatively. One thing that the manga brings up is Gitaro's name is, in essence, his name means pimp.
Pimp?
Yes.
Gitaro or his original name?
Gitaro.
Okay.
Is essentially a slang term for pimp.
That's funny.
Yes, because that's essentially what he is. He collects on debts.
Yep.
And he protects his sister from, well, people paying for prostitution. Right. So, in essence, he is a pimp.
That's funny.
It's a very clever way to, or play on words. Excuse me. It's a very clever play on words.
Right. And I suppose one thing we didn't flush out was Daki's original name is Ume.
Yep.
And they explained in the anime that Ume was the disease that killed their mother.
Which is also syphilis.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, that's funny.
That is another thing you find out in the manga, that their mother died of syphilis. So, which makes sense. She is a prostitute. So,
Sure, it's common enough, probably.
Probably very common. One thing that you learn is kind of Inosuke's past, and you know that he was raised by boar. But then you're like, well, so if he was raised by boar, how is he able to talk to people? How is he able to read? How is he able to do any of these things?
Can he read, though? Like, he is kind of stupid.
He is kind of dumb. But the very minimum, we know he can talk to people.
Yeah.
And that is because there was this old man in the mountains that had a shrine that basically brought in Inosuke in the fact that he would feed him and read him books. Okay. And that is how Inosuke learned to talk, was through the interactions with this old man. But they bring mention to it, or they make funny moments of it, where his son, the old man's son, was like, hey, don't talk to this wild animal. This is what's going to happen if you bring, like, that whole, if you feed a wild animal, they're just going to keep coming back.
Yep. They
make jokes on that, where it's like, hey, if you keep feeding him, he's just going to keep coming back, and you're never going to get rid of this wild boar, because the son is mistaking Inosuke as a wild animal. And then at the very end, they make a joke how Inosuke overpowers the son of this old man, and was like, you're going to bow down to me because I am stronger than you, where essentially he talks for the first time. So it's just a joke, just kind of a little bit of background information on Inosuke. He is still wearing the boar's mask the entire time.
Okay.
So,
okay, well, that's pretty interesting. I wonder if they'll show that in like season 3 or something.
Maybe. Honestly, they might not ever bring it up, because this was in the beginning of the Entertainment District arc kind of thing, versus, we're way probably 30 some chapters beyond where it is. And it's just kind of funny that Inosuke can just talk, even though he was raised by boar.
Right, if you think about it.
Yeah. They make mention how the kunai can paralyze normal demons for half a day. So
the wisteria kunai?
Yep, the kunai that is laced with the wisteria poison can paralyze normal demons for a half a day. And Gitaro is basically paralyzed for like a minute at most.
I don't know. Basically, how fast-paced everything was. Like, it was just a moment. But yeah.
So a very short period of time, comparatively anyway. One thing, you're not going to get the visual stimulation that you would in an anime. The entire the entire background and foreground of this area, the Entertainment District, does not catch on fire by the attack by Gitaro.
Oh, Gitaro basically drops a nuke with his body and blows everything up.
So before that, when he saves his sister Daki from Inosuke, after that like super slash attack, and the entire area is on fire at that point, like, it doesn't get on fire. Like, I don't know how it all got on fire, but apparently everything just kind of self-imploded and turned into fire, because neither Daki or Gitaro had any fire attacks. Like, what caused it all to be on fire?
I suppose the first thing comes to my mind is, what if there's some kind of stupid stove going on inside a building and it gets knocked over?
Every single one of them in the entire village.
Right.
So there's no fire in the manga.
Okay.
Very visually appealing in the anime, but in the manga, you're not going to get anything out of it. So nothing is on fire. And then also, after Gitaro breaks Tanjiro's fingers is when he asks Tanjiro if he wants to become a demon, not Inosuke, not Tanjiro like fleeing and then getting caught by Gitaro again. Then Gitaro asking him. No, it's after the entire area gets destroyed. Gitaro is talking with Tanjiro, breaks his fingers, and then it was like, you know what would be a good idea? Why don't you turn into a demon? And then that conversation happens. So, again,
flip-flopped a little bit.
They just elongated it. That's really all that happened, because nothing happened between him escaping and then him getting attacked. Like, eliminate that part, and that is what happens in the manga.
Yeah.
You're not losing anything. You're not gaining anything. I wouldn't call it any sort of filler. It's just making it more visually appealing. Just as I had mentioned earlier, most of the fights are that way. Actually, almost every single one of the fights are that way. Such as the monologue with Tengen and his wives talk about how, it's like, well, what do you want to do after we defeat an upper moon? It's like, well, I think we should kind of just become shinobi and disappear. And in the anime, they go into like this super long monologue, and he's having all these flashbacks and all these other things, and like the flowers falling on all of his wives, like that part doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's pretty fluffy just to add.
Yeah.
Like, over-dramatic love interest of the wives towards Tengen.
Yeah, which, I mean, they all love each other, perfectly fine with it as far as an anime is concerned. It just doesn't happen in the manga.
Real quick,
yes.
I suppose this kind of brings up another memory. Like, at that moment is when we learn about Tengen's younger brother basically being an asshole, just like his dad, and those are the only two living siblings. So I guess I would like to see him kind of be sprinkled somewhere in the future.
I doubt it. I doubt we're going to get anything from his brother. His brother doesn't do anything as far as a demon's concerned.
Sure. I mean, he's still very much a shinobi.
Yes, shinobi, but I mean, let's be honest, shinobi typically assassinate political heads and do various things along those sorts. Nothing to do with demons.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, we're never going to see his brother. Then the kunai that Tanjiro gets from Tengen's wife, he received after he saved his wife. It wasn't just happened to be in this bag and then you ripped it open and then stabbed me with it kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't random. Like, Tanjiro had it almost the entire time.
Okay. And
was just waiting for his opportunity to use it, which is very reminiscent to the first time when he fought Gyu before he learned how to be a swordsman. Where he used the axe as a distraction.
Oh, the very first episode.
Yep.
Yeah, when he threw the axe in the air to distract him.
Yep.
Okay, yep.
Very, very reminiscent of that fight where he uses that as a distraction.
Okay.
So, awesome writing, but yeah. And then that's really it. Like, that's really it.
Okay, so they did a really good job on staying true.
Yes. Honestly, like I said, the biggest thing is just they elongated the fights. That's about it.
And that's just for visual things for us watchers. So.
Oh, definitely no complaints on my side.
I mean, it was beautiful. That's why I would say that's the heavy lifting of why this show is so amazing.
Yep.
I mean, the story's amazing.
The story is very well done.
But for people like us, the action is kind of what keeps us drawn in.
Yeah, that's how you become everybody's top anime, to be completely honest, is action. That's why Dragon Ball Z is favorited by so many people. Has nothing to do with the storyline. It has everything to do with all the power-ups and all of the fight scenes.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Because we all want to know what happens next. How do they get stronger?
Yep. And one more, I guess, tidbit you could talk about is the manga itself is 205 chapters total. So we're about halfway through.
At this moment?
Give or take. We're at chapter 97.
Right.
And it's at 205.
Okay. Well, that's pretty interesting because at the rate that we seem to be going right now, we're kind of looking at like arcs/seasons being introduced to Hashira specifically.
Yep.
So like where we would learn more one-on-one kind of things. So I would imagine, I mean, I guess there is only a small handful of actual Hashira left. So I guess it could kind of work its way through like that.
Yeah, because season 3 has already been announced.
Mm-hmm. With the Love Hashira.
Yep. You get 2 of them. They make mention of 2. So it's the Swordsman Village arc, I think is what they're making mention of.
Swordsman or Samurai?
Swordsman.
Okay. Yeah, that's I probably just...
Because it's going to be the arc related to... So, excuse me. It's the Swordsmith Village arc.
Oh, okay. That's a little bit different.
So Hataru, who is the creator, forger of Tanjiro's sword.
Okay.
The one that gets all butthurt that he threw his sword.
Oh, real quick about that one. I found that scene to be much more comical in Japanese than it was in English.
Yes, I would agree.
I don't know why. Maybe just the Japanese voice was more entertaining, but or maybe because I saw it for a second time in English. I don't know. But it was definitely a bigger takeaway the first time in Japanese.
Yes, I would agree with that. But that is going to be season 3. And if anything comes in, like if it follows suit, season 4 will probably be the last season of this, which I'm perfectly fine with. I mean, 50 chapters, give or take, per season is a very well done anime, especially because season 2 was, as we had said earlier, 18 episodes. Yeah,
if you want to combine, Mugen Train plus entertainment arcs together equal a full season 2.
Yep. Yeah, no, I definitely loved the Entertainment District arc and Mugen Train arc together. It was very well done.
Oh yeah, well played. I'm glad that they kind of split these cores into 2 separate arcs, 2 separate launches like that. Totally on board with that. That's fine.
Yep, very well done. I know we just had Christmas. Got my box set of Demon Slayer, my first ever box set. Loved this entire manga. Can't wait to continue reading it again and watching it animated into the anime because it's so well done.
Yeah, and you sent me the picture like yesterday. That box set looked pretty big.
Yep.
So that's pretty freaking sweet.
Yep. But that's really all I got. You got anything else?
Nope. That concludes myself for Demon Slayer Season 2.
Okay.
And that will be another episode of the Anime Lounge podcast. Like we had mentioned earlier, we are now brought to you by the Animes Show on Facebook. So go on Facebook and go like that page and support us there, and clearly support them. They show a lot of amazing anime stuff. Just stay up to date with everything with them.
And see awesome stuff that we're going to bring you in the future.
Right. So until next time, we'll catch you guys later.
Have a good one.
Gotta get used to trying to say anime.